Salim Moizuddin Abdul Ali, born on 12th November 1896 and died on 20th June 1987, was an Indian ornithologist and naturalist, sometimes referred to as the Birdman of India. Salim Ali was the first Indian to conduct systematic bird surveys across India and wrote several bird books that popularized ornithology in India. He became a key figure behind the Bombay Natural History Society after 1947 and used his personal influence to garner government support for the organization, create the Bharatpur Bird Sanctuary, Kevladev National Park, and prevent the destruction of what is now the Silent Valley National Park. Along with Sidney Dillon Ripley, he wrote the landmark 10-volume Handbook of the Birds of India and Pakistan, a second edition of which was completed after his death. He was awarded the Padma Bhushan in 1958 and the Padma Vibhushan in 1976, India's third and second highest civilian honors, respectively. Several species of birds, a couple of bird sanctuaries, and institutions have been named after him. Salim Ali was born into a Sulaimani Bohra family in Bombay, the ninth and youngest child of Moizuddin. His father died when he was a year old, and his mother, Zinatun Nisa, died when he was 3. Along with his siblings, Ali was brought up by his maternal uncle Amiruddin Tayyabji and childless aunt Hamida Begum in a middle class household in Khetwadi, Mumbai. Another uncle was Abbas Tayyabji, a well known Indian freedom fighter. Ali's early interest was in books on hunting in India, and he became the most interested in sport shooting, encouraged by his foster father Amiruddin. Salim was introduced to the serious study of birds by W. S. Millard, secretary to the Bombay Natural History Society, where Amiruddin was a member, who identified an unusually colored sparrow that young Salim had shot for sport with his toy air gun. Millard identified it as a yellow-throated sparrow and showed Salim around the society's collection of stuffed birds. Millard lent Salim a few books, including Iha's Common Books of Bombay, encouraged Salim to make a collection of birds, and offered to train him in skinning and preservation. In his autobiography, The Fall of a Sparrow, Ali notes the yellow-throated sparrow event as a turning point in his life, one that led him into ornithology, an unusual career choice, especially for an Indian in those days. Even at around 10 years of age, he maintained a diary, and among his earliest bird notes were observations on the replacement of the males in paired hen sparrows after he shot down the males. He noted that the male partner of a female sparrow was replaced soon after he had shot the previous male. Salim went to primary school at Zanana Bible and Medical Mission Girls High School at Girgam, along with 2 of his sisters, and later to St. Xavier's College, Bombay. Around the age of 13, he suffered from chronic headaches, making him drop out of class frequently. He was sent to Sindh to stay with an uncle who had suggested that the dry air might help, and on returning after such breaks in studies, he barely managed to pass the matriculation exam of the Bombay University in 1913. He dropped out and went to Tavoy in Burma, the Nasiram, to look after the family's wool farm, that is tungsten mining. The forests surrounding this area provided an opportunity for Ali to hone his naturalist and hunting skills. Coming back home, he enrolled in St. Xavier's College. The father there persuaded Ali to study zoology. After attending morning classes at Davos College, he then began to attend zoology classes at St. Xavier's College and was able to complete the course in zoology. Tired of his job as a lecture guide in the Prince of Wales Museum in Mumbai, after 2 years, he took leave in 1928 to study in Germany. On his return to India in 1930, he discovered that the guide lecturer position had been eliminated due to lack of funds. Salim Ali, as a married man, required money to make a living, so he joined the museum as a clerk. The position allowed him to carry on with his bird research. His wife's house at Kihim, a small village near Mumbai, was a tranquil place surrounded by trees, where he had the opportunity to study at close hand the breeding of Baya, the weaver bird. Salim spent most of his time researching about the activities of the weaver bird. He published the research in 1930. The article made him famous and established his name in the field of ornithology. Later commentators have suggested that this study was in the tradition of the Mughal naturalists that Salim Ali admired and wrote about in 3-part series on the Mughal emperors as naturalists. Around the same time, he discovered an opportunity to conduct systematic bird surveys in the princely states of Hyderabad, Cochin, Travancore, Gwalior, Indore and Bhopal with the sponsorship of their rulers. He was aided and supported in these surveys by Hugh Whistler, who had surveyed many parts of India and had kept very careful notes. Ali was not very interested in the details of bird systematics and taxonomy and was more interested in studying birds in the field. Ali later wrote that his interest was in the living bird in its natural environment. Ali was also interested in the historical aspects of ornithology in India. In a series of articles, among his first publications, he examined the contributions to natural history of the Mughal emperors. In the 1971 Sundar Lal Hora Memorial Lecture and the 1978 Azad Memorial Lecture, he spoke of the history and importance of bird study in India. Towards the end of his life, he began to document the lives of people in the history of the Bombay Natural History Society, but did not complete the series with only 4 parts published. Salim Ali was very influential in ensuring the survival of the Bombay Natural History Society and managed to save the then 100-year-old institution by writing to the then Prime Minister Pandit Nehru for financial help. Ali also guided several MSc and PhD students, the first of whom was Vijay Kumar Ambedkar, who further studied the breeding and ecology of the Baya beaver, producing a thesis which was favorably reviewed. Salim Ali wrote numerous journal articles, chiefly in the Journal of the Bombay Natural History Society. He also wrote a number of popular and academic books, many of which remain in print. Ali credited Tehmina, who had studied in England, for helping improve his English prose. Some of his literary pieces were used in a collection of English writing. A popular article that he wrote in 1930, stopping by the woods on a Sunday morning, was reprinted in the Indian Express on his birthday in 1984. His most popular work was The Book of Indian Birds, written in the style of Whistler's Popular Handbook of Birds, first published in 1941 and subsequently translated into several languages with numerous later editions. The first 10 editions sold more than 46,000 copies. The first edition was reviewed by Ernest Mayr in 1943, who commended it while noting that the illustrations were not to the standard of American bird books. His magnum opus was, however, the 10-volume Handbook of the Birds of India and Pakistan, written with Dillon Ripley and often referred to as the Handbook. This work began in 1964 and ended in 1974, with a second edition completed after his death by others. A single volume, compact edition of the handbook was also produced, and a supplementary illustrative work, the first to cover all the birds of India. A pictorial guide to the birds of the Indian subcontinent by John Henry Dick and Dillon Ripley was published in 1983. The plates from this work were incorporated in the second edition of the handbook. He also produced a number of regional field guides, including The Birds of Kerala. The first edition, 1953, was titled The Birds of Travancore and Cochin, The Birds of Sikkim, The Birds of Kutch, later as The Birds of Gujarat, Indian Hill Birds, and Birds of the Eastern Himalayas. Several low-cost books were produced by the National Book Trust, including Common Birds in 1967, co-authored with his niece Laik Fateh Ali, which was reprinted in several editions with translations into Hindi and other languages. In 1985, he wrote his autobiography, The Fall of a Sparrow. Ali provided his own vision for the Bombay Natural History Society, noting the importance of conservation action. A 2-volume compilation of his shorter letters and writings was published in 2007, edited by Tara Gandhi, one of his last students. Salim not only researched about birds but also contributed to the arena of protection of nature. For his extraordinary efforts, he was given an international award of INR 5 lakhs, but he donated all the money to Bombay Natural History Society. The Government of India honoured him with the Padma Bhushan in 1958 and the Padma Vibhushan in 1976. This genius man died at the age of 90 on June 20th, 1987, after a prolonged battle with prostate cancer.